Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Every week, I introduce you to a new photographer that will inspire you to try something new and look at a subject just a little differently. The schedule for upcoming sessions are on my website at lindanickell.com/happiness hour. And if you haven't subscribed to our monthly newsletter, you can find the link there too. Tonight's guest is Danielle Austen. Danielle is an award-winning fine art photographer and a six-time National Parks Artist in Residence, an impressive accomplishment that speaks to her deep connection with the natural world. Her work blends the precision of design, the storytelling of photojournalism, and the expressive power of fine art, revealing the quiet beauty and emotion found in nature's details. Along with her own creative practice, Danielle is passionate about teaching. She offers mentorships, online classes, and workshops that inspire photographers to slow down, see more deeply, and find their own artistic voice. You can connect with her through her website at danielleausten.com. And if you're on Instagram, you can find her at Unfiltered Eyes. Tonight's session, the power of subtle adjustments. In this critique session, we'll explore how those choices shape a viewer's response and strengthen an image's story. While technical skill provides the foundation, creativity and a unique way of seeing bring a photograph to life. I'm delighted that Danielle will share her thoughts, insights, and years of experience as a photographer to help us hone in on what a little adjustment can do to make a photograph better. Danielle, welcome back to the Happiness Hour.
Thank you so much for having me back. I appreciate it, guys.
Well,
It's always nice to be here whenever I can join in, and thrilled to be here with you guys tonight. And thank you for all who submitted images, and just those who are just joining us tonight just to watch. Hopefully you'll see something maybe new or different. You never know. So guys, I do actually run photo critique groups, and I probably run them a little differently than many other people do. And so we're going to get a little bit of taste of how I do them. As Linda kind of mentioned, I do sometimes like to have a little bit more interaction with my group because I think everybody has a voice to share. So, but give you a little bit of backstory of kind of how I got into sort of like getting into the critiquing and looking at photos is, and I'm going to share real quickly here. I'm just going to jump over here. And I'm actually, whoops, my apologies. And actually, we're going to go back to here. That's actually our first image tonight. But I'm going to go to this. Hoping you guys can all see that. And so most of you might be associated with the PSA organization. If you're with a camera club, it's the Photographic Society of America. And there's another sister organization called the PPA, Professional Photographers of America. And I used to be a member way long time ago. And they both kind of really work in the same matter. And these are kind of the 12 steps of, well, reviewing an image, critiquing an image, or judging an image. And both organizations are pretty much identical when it comes to these kind of points here. And I find them really, truly important. And I think camera clubs are very important for ways about learning. And I'm a true believer of learning all these different kind of aspects about photography, some of the basic rules of photography. But, you know, it always does come down to impact, right? Technical is always important, creativity, style, and composition, and so forth. And I think these are, again, very important to learn about. But being said that, so going back here, I'm going to go back in time. And this is kind of when I first started getting into my nature photography. My background was in fine arts, believe it or not, the traditional fine arts and regular film photography. I was a graphic designer as sort of my first career. I became a photojournalist for a number of years, and now kind of take all of that, and now I'm kind of doing my fine art work, and majority of my work is in nature photography. So I photographed this back in 2010. I was in my kayak late October, and you can only get this view from a boat. So this is a local reservoir here in New Jersey. absolutely fell in love with this image. I was very excited about this image. And I had just joined PPA. And so I was encouraged, by another member, yes, you should definitely submit it. And PPA, the way they do their judging is kind of a score from 70 to 100 or under if it doesn't even classify. And this image got a 97 in the regional competition, and then it also got an awarded in the national competition. So I'm thinking, wow, I rock, I rule, woohoo! I'm like excited as anything, and we're like, all right, this is fantastic, right? So the next year I went to, now it's 2012. So this was 2011 when I submitted this. 2012, I went off to the Everglades National Park, and this was my first artist in residency. I was there doing a project, more of a documentary style of project. But it was the first time I'm also exploring using neutral density filters and using motion, exploring long exposure. I had never done this before. I knew nothing about what I was doing. This again is 2012. The internet's not the way it is today. And I create this image. This is Daisy Dome. And it's still a signature image for me. It's still one of my absolute true favorite images. To me, it was the first time I ever felt like I captured the emotion I was trying to capture in an image to represent the space I was really in. And the Everglades to me has always felt like there are these spirits as though you've walked back in time. And I was beyond ecstatic. So I get out and I submit this image that year, because this was early 2012. I submitted into the PPA, and it never gets past the 75. And I'm kind of heartbroken. I'm like, what? Really? What? Are you kidding me? Love this image. But here's the funny thing is, guys, is this image was in 8 exhibits around the country, out in California, New York, in galleries. It was even in a show in Berlin. This was part of the Julia Cameron Awards, which is for women photographers, because it was given an award. And I even earned, won a number of awards. I even earned about $1,400 in prize money from a couple different competitions. So, here it is. I'm like, well, what does PPA know? So, there's still this world that I'm a true believer of, that, knowing the rules, following the rules is fine. Playing with the rules and understanding them is good. But there's also ways to break them where maybe people, they might not recognize that. I'm a true believer. Yeah, break the rules, play with it, push the boundaries, see what else you can do. So I'm always a believer of that. And that's kind of where I'm headed for now, is when we have I do my critique groups, is I really always want to encourage people, hey, if you're in a scene or in a location, photograph what you see. So shoot the overall scene by all means. But then what else do you see? What else can you create while you're there? If you can, you never know, you might get something even 10 times better than you ever even imagined. So the way I do my kind of run my critiques is, I have, like you guys did, you sent your images in, I bring them into Lightroom and I make edits. So instead of just telling you what my thoughts are, I'm going to do my best to show you what my thoughts are. So kind of showing you some technical issues. We can talk more about the composition and other aspects, and even the story of the image. And of course, if the photographer wants to chime in, guys, I can be wrong. And by all means, it's okay to say, I don't agree with you, Danielle. I just want to show you maybe one possible aspect of what you maybe could do with your image. I am just one voice. There are many other voices, and it's wonderful. And you should always be very proud of yourselves when you do share your images to be looked at and to be critiqued or reviewed, because it does take a lot of courage to do that. So kudos to you guys. I have 7 people submitted images for the evening. Let me just get out of here. Whoops. Let me get out of here. There we go. And I'm going to hide this. And so just to let you guys know too, for everybody that I worked on the images tonight, if you would like my edits, I put my email address in the chat. You are more than welcome to email me. Just tell me your name and say, hey, can you send them to me? I'll send you a DNG, and you just import that into Lightroom or into ACR, Adobe Camera Raw, and you can you see the changes that I actually made. If you would like to have them, I'm more than happy to send them to you. So Linda asked me to actually just pick. I know a couple of you guys sent more than one image. She asked me to just do one, but I have done them all. So if we have time at the end, I will continue if Linda says that's okay.
Mhm.
And we'll just keep talking. So let's get started. So if the creator, and because I'm hiding the names right now, because again, if you don't want to talk, you don't want to say anything, I don't want to put your name out there. But if the creator does want to talk really briefly about their image, if there's anything you want to share, you're more than welcome to right now. Otherwise, I'll get going.
Hi.
It's Andy.
Yeah, it was mine. Yeah, this was an image that we were at a state park in South Carolina, and it was just past sunset. So you had that reflected light off of the alto cumulus clouds onto the still water of the swamp. And a skimmer comes skimming by, and I needed to keep the shutter speed kind of low. Yeah, 1/640th. So it would bring out the colors, but now I'm looking at it on my screen and I'm like, that's kind of bland. So tell me what to do.
No, and so Andy, mind you, so guys, wildlife photography is wonderful. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a wildlife photographer, but I will photograph a bird in a heartbeat whenever, especially if it comes crossing my path. And I'm in a kayak a lot, so when I'm in my kayak, I'm always photographing birds. But 90% of everything I shoot is a portrait. Because they're not flying, and because it is a challenge. And I mean, and I love animal portraits. I mean, animal portraits can be beautiful, but to catch an animal, whatever the species is, bird or anything else, in motion, doing their actual whatever they do. This is hunting here. They're fishing, but when you get them in action, that's a challenge on its own. And to get them and get the shot, freeze the action, get them nice, sharp. Again, kudos on that. But you are right. Beautiful light. I was actually thinking it was early morning, so that I think it doesn't really matter which way it is, but the light is absolutely gorgeous. And you have a wonderful moment that you've caught where the skimmer is just going in. So just right before it goes all the way in, that beautiful, precise, that little decisive moment, and a beautiful reflection. So really, you have all the elements going on here. And so for me, it's more kind of a technical just suggestions, if I may. And like I said, I'm going to show you kind of just briefly. So give it a second. And this is kind of little adjustments I made. And so I tend to go very often, guys, I will tend to work in a ratio if I can. Because we know sometimes when you're working in custom ratios, if you decide to print, it can be much more challenging, right? For mats or whatever, it becomes much more of a hassle. So if I can work in a 2:3 format, yay, or maybe a square, but even a 4:5 or 4:3, I do my best. So this is a 2:3, and you can see the crop just a little bit. And I just cut off the back because I do love all the light in the front. It's gorgeous. So little things I made little suggestions on was really just doing some masking. And guys, I don't spend a lot of time, and it's not precise by any means, but just to give you guys, again, a sense of what I'm doing. And a lot of it was selecting the bird and bringing up the shadows. And you can see that there, because what I also love, Andy, too, is look at that beautiful light there, that little skim light that's hitting that, right, that beautiful little highlight on the wing is just divine. And so really very lovely. And so just by kind of bringing up, I did a bird, I did the reflection, bringing up the shadows. The water, I actually added some more blue to it and just add a little bit more color, a little bit more with the sky as well. You can see I added the temperatures, a great way of working by adding that little aspect. And I'm always a big fan of like selecting the eyes and just bringing up the shadows a little bit there. And just anytime we can get an eye, right, of any creature, person, human, or animal, it's fantastic. So, and then of course, I did a little bit I was kind of playing with the color here. And I think in the background, one of my favorite things to do with water, because I love water, guys, one of my absolute favorite subjects too, and depending on what I'm doing with water, is I will go down and I will actually bring down the clarity. It's a way of smoothing out the water even a little bit more if you really just want to smooth it. And it gives it a little bit of a glow. I'm a big fan of glows, especially in nature. It's a nice effect. So it's just an absolutely beautiful image. And like, it just love the light. And because it gives it that very ethereal feeling too, because it has that almost infinity edge where you just don't know where it just goes off into just nowhere land, you might say. But it's just that nice reflection, and it's just a really serene moment, very minimalistic, which is always a favorite of mine too. Less is more in many cases. Now, one other thought was, real quick, if you wanted to do a square.
Oh, yeah.
And, because this is a very bright area over here. And if you just wanted to keep it kind of that focus more here, that might be another way of going at it as well. Because I do love the length, but it's kind of a back and forth on that one.
No, that looks great.
So really nice capture.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Danielle. That was awesome.
Thank you. All right. Moving on. And okay. I forget our creator's name on this one. My apologies.
That's
me.
Oh, that's Carolyn. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. This is Goldwater Lake here in Prescott, and I had actually just missed, the sun had just gone behind a cloud, and I was hurrying, and I, of course, wanted the reflection, when I shared it on Facebook, I was surprised at all the likes and shares that I got on it, because the sky was blown out, and I felt like I should have brought the tree shadows up more, and I don't know, just wanted someone else's opinion.
And that's, Carolyn, that's absolutely right. I mean, we all love to share on Facebook. I mean, it's always a nice place because it's our friends and family, right? And people really will give you a lot of support, and that they should, and I love that. And you were actually spotted right on it as well about the blown out clouds, but this is a beautiful scene. You got this nice, wonderful, the clouds, anytime you get a landscape and you get good clouds, yay, right? That's always wonderful, because it really does take it up a notch, I think, in really nice landscapes. And with the reflections is absolutely wonderful. You get this wonderful kind of V going on too, right? On the left and on the right, and it aims right to those yellow trees right in the middle. So it has a lot of dynamic in there as well. And this is kind of one of those, it is centered, but I'm a big fan that if you have a nice reflection, an equal reflection, centering an image, centering your subject works, because you have the top and you've got the bottom, which is fantastic. So, and that's okay. Sometimes you don't need the sun. It just creates a very different image, but I love, actually, the scene is really lovely. And what you're going to see is I kind of play a little bit. It's not always exactly where I'm trying to get, but just to give you an idea, because the reality is sometimes we're there for a moment and that's all we have. And we got to take advantage of that moment. And there are things we can always do in post, and there are things we can't. So I would definitely say the first thing is always make sure you do expose for your highlights as best as you can. I know it happens very quickly, but it's very hard to bring back highlights. Even when we're shooting raw, it's hard to get that detail back, because you can always pull it back up in shadows, but it's so hard to get it back. So I would always say, I know a lot of people who bracket, or quickly make an adjustment and just underexpose it a little bit more, just so you get that beautiful detail up there. Now I played, so bear with me, but there you go.
Ooh,
so
beautiful.
What I did is actually I masked in some of the definition into the clouds, just to give you a sense if you were able to get any of that detail back into your clouds. Because mind you can do this. I did this in Lightroom, and it's not perfect by any means, and I did it fairly quickly, but I do a lot of these kind of just go in and I use, the cloning tool, and you can see all my little quick clones I did. And I just zap, 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 zap. And I did it very quickly. It could be done much better. Trust me on that one. But just to give you a sense, you can put that information back in. But then you're absolutely right. I pulled up your shadows into the land. And that's kind of what I do. I make a lot of different masks, and I love masks. I think, I used to do all my processing in Photoshop, because Lightroom for me was, okay, it's a good basic. It's great for organizing. But until the past few years ago, when they finally came out with masks, it has revolutionized when it comes to the world of Lightroom. And I do a lot of my edits now in Lightroom because of it. So it does pretty good. And I really kind of just played, again, opened up your shadows a little bit in the, in the trees, of course, the sky, just kind of darkened it down, add a little bit of a gradient kind of thing like that, just to kind of darken that corner. Okay. The rocks a little bit. So what happens, just to let you know too, is anything, guys, that's neutral in color, grays, whites, blacks, it's going to pick up anything from the sky. And so they're going to go blue. And so you're going to want to, even though it's okay to reflect a little bit of blue because that's it, but we know they're more neutral. So I kind of go into things like the rocks here. Actually, where's my rocks? Here we go. And I actually made them added more yellow. It's the opposite of blue. So just by adding that little bit of yellow and so forth. But what I did with your water, and I'm a big fan, anybody who knows me, I love long exposures. And when you're dealing with water, I love like doing a longer exposure, especially with like lakes and ponds. Really smooth it out. Just enjoy that, because then you can just, to me, it has a nice kind of juxtaposition to all the other information that's happening in your scene. So, and that's kind of what I did with the water. And with that really becomes just kind of really taking the texture and clarity down. And I think I did a little bit of no, I actually left the sharpness a little. Oh, I did. I think I went into, made another copy, and then I took the sharpness down even more. So you can see that's where it was, which is not bad either. Not by any means. And I don't mind the ripples. Just to let you know, if you had a tripod, I would go, do a tripod quickly. But I love, like I said, so just to give you an idea, this kind of be things that you can do as well. So, but it's a beautiful scene. It really just, like I said, captures, that first stages of fall, when those first trees are happening and so forth. So, really quite lovely. And the other thing is, I noticed you had a little bit of chromatic aberration. Are you familiar with that, Carolyn?
No.
Okay. So, guys, and if you're shooting raw, which I hope everybody's photographing raw. I mean, if you're shooting with your phone, you can shoot raw now, most of these phones, which is great. So chromatic, and in Lightroom and in Adobe Camera Raw, there is the lens correction down here.
Oh,
and there's a profile, right? And you can click where it says remove chromatic and enable the profile corrections. Okay. Some cameras, you can do it there, so it automatically does it here when you bring your images. I'm a Canon girl. Mine does this automatically because I set it up in my camera. But if you guys are not familiar with chromatic aberration, kind of what it is, all our lenses are curved, have a curvature to them. And all light travels at different wavelengths. But ideally, we want is when all that light comes into our camera, it's all coming in at the same focal point and the same focal length. But it's not. It doesn't always do that, especially in high contrast areas. When there's a sharp, bright sunny day, and you get on these very kind of like on tree limbs, buildings, things like that. And you're going to see like this little area, and I'm going to show you real quick, guys. Let's blow it up a little bit more. I know it's a little out of focus now. Do you guys see this little bit on the edging here? It's called fringing as well. It comes across green, purple, magenta, things like that. That's what's happening. So that's why we always want to enable it. Now, if you have a JPEG or something, you can manually do it as well, just to let you know. And that's kind of, you can always adjust the amount here. And that's kind of what I did here. You can see I just brought it up, the purple and the amount, and just take it out a little bit. Okay. So there are ways to work around it, guys. But just make sure it's always clicked off, especially on those contrasty days. It just happens, guys, because it can be the lens. It can just be the aperture you're at. There's a number of things that creates it, but especially on these bright days, it'll happen. So I hope that helped.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
One other crop, I wanted to make one other quick suggestion for you, and we'll move on to the next one, is this could be done in a 16:9 ratio as well. More of a pano if you just kind of wanted to get into it a little bit more. And
I like that.
So it's just another thought, another way to go, because it has that length to it, and if you didn't want all that sky and all that water and just kind of get right more into the heart of the subject, going in with that 16:9 might be another nice idea as well. But really beautiful image. So nice capture, very nice capture. All right. Butterflies. So I don't know if the person who is here that created this.
That would be me.
Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Fine. This is just a very quick picture of a moving butterfly on our really leggy zinnias in our backyard.
Okay.
And I was just trying my best just to capture a picture of one of the very few butterflies that frequented or visited this year.
All right. Fantastic.
And, yeah.
No, so go ahead. Did you have anything else?
No, I think I sent also my version of the edited one.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw that, but okay. I would love to see what you could just do with this. This was just taken handheld very quickly.
And butterflies are tricky. It's just like any other wildlife, right? Is that simply the fact is that they're moving. And you hope that you get one that's really found a lovely flower and it's going to stick around for a bit and hang out, and then you get really lucky. And with anything moving, guys, I would always highly recommend, get off the single shot on your camera, make sure you're on high speed, continuous mode, and just click, 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 click. Because if they're moving, if they get up, if they begin to fly away, you just never know when that perfect moment that you love comes together. So if it's any wildlife, any birds, people, anything that moves, follow them until the end, until you finally lose them. Just take about a zillion pictures. You can always delete, but you never know when that right moment might be there. So again, this is really lovely. I love the side profile of it, and with the pink flower and the yellow. And I can see the most challenging part is, of course, is the background, right? And that's with anything is backgrounds, right? So I'm a big fan of always looking at your edges, right? So once we're in the little world of our 2x3 frame or whatever your frame is, everything now makes a connection. So we always kind of look at the edges and say, okay, but what's important? What's needed? What's not needed? What adds to the story? What doesn't add to the story? So, and to me, this is the story right here. So I kind of would love just to go right into this. And as this doesn't really, for me, add anything to it. So here we go. And there you go. So kind of, you can see my crop, and I did a little bit of a rotation just so I can line up with this guy right here on this. And I wanted to get this whole leaf in as much as I could without getting the post in there and so forth. And this is a 2x3 ratio I did. And then it really was kind of just doing the same thing, kind of masking. Really simple mask with this one was the butterfly and the two flowers. And a lot of it was, and also, let me just go back to my basic menu here. You can see I really pulled up the shadows and the blacks in the background to really just lighten up that background.
Okay. Yeah.
And just kind of soften it out so it just looks more distant. You never know what's really back there. And then just kind of play with the butterflies. I just kind of brought up the shadows and the whites, added a little bit of saturation for him because he had beautiful color in him already. I just gave a little bit more pop to him. And the same thing with the flowers, was a little bit just brightening them up and just adding a little bit more saturation. And I think I might have did one more other thing is I think I did with the background, might have been actually with the greens, is I actually just took the greens down a little bit in the luminance because they were a little bit bright, and I just kind of darkened them down a little bit. It's little things, and to just isolate just him, because it really is such a lovely little moment right here. And this, I love this. I actually really love this flower, just the way it kind of coops down like that. And it's really, they're framing the butterfly. And that's a really nice thing when we get to use framing as a nice compositional element. And that really just kind of has a nice little moment in there and so forth, without you having to do any cloning or anything like that. If I have to do minimal cloning, I'm very happy. So, does that work maybe for you?
That works.
Okay.
That works. Great.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Really nice moment there. As you said, it's not easy to do for sure. And my apologies, Debbie. I didn't see your edition, so I don't know how it compared to your rendition. So, all right.
Okay. Thanks.
So our artist, are you here today?
I am.
Oh, Donna. Hi. How are you?
I am good. So this was taken this past July in Tanzania, and this was the elder in a tribe that we visited one morning. And as a tribe, they are foragers. They completely live off the land, and so I just found him very interesting.
Absolutely. And portraits are wonderful. I love portrait photography because photographing, it's really getting a chance to see somebody and understand a little bit about who they are. And this is a very different kind of portrait because we're not seeing their eyes. In many ways, normally we'll have somebody looking at you. We look into a way of seeing into their soul, as they say. But this is really lovely because when you're doing a side profile, it's really more about their features. It's so much about them. And look at this hair. It's absolutely gorgeous. His skin is beautiful, right? But this is a wonderful way of accentuating this individual in a very different format, because we are looking at all these different features. And I love that you chose black and white. because that really does force you to look at those features. You're now, because you're not distracted by a color, you're focusing so much now on, the face, the skin, the texture, the hair, the clothing and the beading and everything like that. And you're just getting to just get absorbed into the emotion of the scene. So for Donna, I just made a couple suggestions I can think of, is just kind of accentuate things, maybe pop them up a little bit more. And what I actually did, I'll give it a second here. There we go. Is actually lighten the background a little bit more, just so he would stand out. So his tones were getting to get a little bit on the same tonage as the background. And I really just kind of separated him and really with the background. And then just with the background, I just kind of brought up the shadows. And I always bring out the highlights, guys, because I never want to blow anything out if I can avoid it, of course. And I might have actually, did I bring down the dehaze? Yes, I did. I always brought down the clarity and dehaze. And again, the clarity, of course, is a way of sharpening or smoothing out. And the dehaze can be a way of adding contrast or, of course, decreasing that contrast. So I love dehaze. It's great, especially for nature on foggy days, adds more fog, adds more on a snowy day, a rainy day, or that kind of adding a mood by kind of just decreasing all that contrast. And then really just kind of work through the image and just add a little bit more. I'm always kind of like playing with little things. You can see with the hair, adding a little bit more, bringing up the whites a little bit and taking down the blacks a little bit. It's just ways of doing contrast. I'm a big fan of using the highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. The whites, of course, your highlights are always your details. Your shadows are your details in the shadows. The whites and the blacks are just ways of brightening and darkening. And that actually is just natural contrast. It actually adds sharpness as well. It can add a little bit more saturation too when you do that as well. So it was just kind of adding these things, kind of just working a little bit, bit by bit. And I love in Lightroom now with people, it can really break it down, the different elements of that person, all the different, their skin, their eyes, their hair, clothing, and so forth. And just kind of playing around, just adding a little bit more contrast all onto the just individual things. And a lot of times it's just brightening and adding a little darkness. And then I actually did a little bit more highlighting in his hair because I'm just loving that hair. And if you guys can see, I really want to make some of those highlights pop out a little bit more. And I call it painting with light. It's, whether you're in color in black and white, but especially in black and white, you really have to do it to really make those tones really come alive and so forth. And because you really can't see his eye there, but I went in there anyways with a little bit of a brush just to kind of brighten it up just a tiny bit, just to kind of make it that little bit of a highlight in there and so forth. But it's an absolutely beautiful portrait. And I love all this hair on his face in these different interesting places. And the profile really does make you focus on those elements on him. So really nicely done.
Thank you.
All right. Gotta get out of here first. There we go. All right. So this one took me a moment. I don't know who's our creators here.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, hi, Heidi. Did you want to say anything, or you just want me to go?
Well, when I'm doing urban photos, I love looking for reflections that have a bit of an optical illusion. And I saw these two window washers and I had to grab it.
And I think that's great. Can I tell you, when I first looked at it, it took me a couple minutes to figure out what was going on, because I saw the P and the sort of an S, but I wasn't really looking at that, because of course the two things we always immediately go to in a photo, if it's there, is the brightest part of a subject and words, if we can read them. So I was like, okay, this is kind of very interesting. But I'm like looking at it going, wait, what's going on? What's going on? And I'll tell you in a minute where my brain actually eventually did want to go. But you're absolutely right. Great reflection, because it has this wonderful obscurity of the person on the other side of the glass, right? And because you're actually in a little bit slower shutter, she's at 1/50th, he's kind of, a little bit soft as well. So we're really focusing on the window. But so it gives him a sense of motion, that he's in the middle of doing something, right? Because he's not sharp as well, which I do like that effect. And I love the colors and all this amazing texture in this glass. It's really very cool. But what I'm loving is this almost like this little bit of a dance, between the two subjects, right? Him, this one direction. I mean, you clearly, he's that promotion kind of, hey, this is who we are. And then you really kind of framing quite nicely on the other side, but he's almost like intertwining with him, because you can see just how the reflection's going. It's almost beginning to blend in with him, which is also very, very nice. So, and they just have where he's in this one direction and he's in this direction, and it has a really nice dynamic going on there as well. So I kind of just cropped in for fun, just to see where I could go with it, to take away any maybe possible distractions, because you do have like this beam of light coming in here, which can be a nice advantage as it can lead you to them. But if you wanted just to jump really right into the scene, I got a little bit tighter, and I just kind of made it a little bit more fun and really playing with the colors, because I love the colors in the scene. And I kind of made it. Now it might be a little bit dark, and that's okay. You know, we could definitely lighten it up a little bit more. But it was really kind of just darkening them down and just really absorbing all these wonderful colors in here, because I just love that background. And you can see where the crop was just a little bit more, to kind of getting that, looks like maybe a printer or something off that screen, and just kind of get more into it and just kind of say, okay, what's happening here? Now, does anybody else see lightsabers from Star Wars? Okay, that's where my brain went. And it's like, okay, we're about to go battle, and they're about to go through the glass and everything. So, and I love that kind of illusion. You're absolutely right. It's a wonderful little optical illusion happening there. So, but most of it, like I said, was just kind of basics, just playing a little bit with, you know, kind of bringing down the shadows and bringing down the blacks. I did go in a little bit into the people, and most of it was a tone down. There's a little bit of orange in the skin tones, which is normal, happens with our, especially with Caucasian skin. And then the background, again, I kind of just brought down the color a little bit more. I always like to kind of break down things, guys. When I start off with, a lot of times in the basics, I play usually with my highlight, shadows, whites and blacks first. And then I like to go then, you know, maybe a little bit of the color mixer if I need to, but then I really want to get into the masks. I think, because that's really where you isolate each part of your element of your, you know, your picture, you know, whatever the subject is, the background and all the other things. And you just keep tweaking it until you get to where, of course, you like it. So I hope that helped. But a really nice observation. I mean, really, that's kind of, it's kind of nice to see when you're just really just observing things around you. But people at work is always a great subject. So really nice. So do we have our photographer here? It's Joe.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Do you want to mention anything? Or go ahead.
Okay, me and a buddy, we were walking around our downtown square, and we kind of walked out of the square area. This is a local laundromat, and the sun was coming through the windows. So we went in to see what we could get. And now we did open up a couple of these washers or dryers for the added effect, but
okay.
It was just one of those, one of those things.
No, and that's, and mind you, the fun part of it is you never, whether people need to know that, not important, of course. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing is, you look at this and maybe you say the laundry, and most of it's usually cringe, because I don't know anybody who really likes to do laundry. And,
Right.
and probably at one point in your lives, guys, you've had to go do laundry at a laundromat. It's a chore. Because either you're going to sit around or you're going to go, you have to go, you're going to leave for half hour and then come back and put it in the dryer and so forth. But it's not something you really like, oh God, laundry. But what you did is you made something quite beautiful out of it. And the nice part about this is you got this one, it's all about the patterns, right? And repetition. And we love, as humans, we love patterns and repetitions. That's just for a fact. And it's a really lovely design. It was great that you said, you know what, let's make them all symmetrical. Let's keep that symmetry going on. Let's open them up. But there's also wonderful little catch light you got going on here with the starburst, right? We got one there, we got one over here, one over there, and a little bit down here as well. So you have the right aperture as well. And to get that starburst sometimes, guys, is you do have to have a pretty high depth of field. So an f14, f16 higher sometimes. You can get lucky at lower ones, of course, but in most cases, you do need that higher aperture. So to get that, it really just adds that little, kind of like a little bit like a jewel. and a little bit of shine to it and so forth. And I actually really do enjoy this in color because it's very neutral though. So it doesn't have a lot of color into it, but it has little hints of blues and a bit of purples in there as well. But the one thing is this one down here on the bottom. And I actually really do love this. It's kind of like this rust, or maybe it's just kind of old concrete that's been stained. But then here's the negative here. My eye keeps going down there because it is so cool. So, sometimes that's the battle, right? Because you're like, okay, I love that. But at the same time, do you want to be distracted by it? So I, in many ways, then say, let's go black and white. You're pretty monochromatic already. It's a kind of a very cool C. So I just immediately kind of went black and white. I still love that color in the definitely in the rims and everything, but it does make a lovely black and white as well, I think. And it's, the nice part is you wouldn't think there's much color in there, but you can see I played with the colors, because there were some reds, there were oranges and yellows and blues and purples. They were in there. And you can see when I turn it off, you can see it does little different things. Now you can disguise that down there, or you can make it pop out more, of course. And there's many ways of kind of playing with it. Color is everything to a black and white. It really is. So having those elements of color really can take it, whether you can go, darker, these are little things, but do you see those little buttons on the top of the machines? Well, do I want them darker, or hey, do I want to make them stand out? But you'll see it's the blue. It's a lot of the blue in here that really kind of makes things pop. And that's where you kind of really make them go. I still play with the basic in here, as you guys can see, the highlights, the shadows, and things like that. But then, of course, now my only little mask was actually a background, just to darken the washer and dryer down there. And again, it's a nice repetition of elements that you have going on. But then that little bit of background, I was just using a linear background to subtracted this just to darken it, to really just focus on the rims of all these washing machines and so forth. But a nice capture, something an everyday element, and said, you know what, this is, you said, I see a potential here. And then you said, oh, now I'm going to make it work. And that's really what you always want to be looking for. So really nicely done.
Thank you.
Oh, all right. Do you like the black and white, or do you still prefer the color?
No, I like the black and white better. I do a lot of black and whites. And
Okay,
the other photo I submitted was black and white.
Yes, I saw that one too. Yes. I'm a big fan.
I don't know why I didn't change that to black and white when I was doing it.
Because it almost looks black and white.
Yeah.
It's so close, you almost don't even realize it's color. So it's hard to sometimes say, oh yeah, I could change it. All right. So this is our last of our first original 7. And so if we have more time, we can go quickly through the others. If Linda's okay with it, we'll go quickly through the others. But do I have our artist here? Our creator?
That is me.
Oh, hi, Shirley. How are you?
Good. And that's one of my edited versions of that one. But yeah, because I sent you a couple of them, I think.
This is the only one I got. So this one, yes.
Yeah.
I did submit a couple other images. But yes, so here, guys, really very quickly. But again, lovely. This is all about, sunny days. One of the best thing about sunny days, and I normally don't like sunny days, is shadows, light and shadows, right? It does beautiful things. Look what it can create. All this wonderful just design and elements. Again, that repetition of patterns, right? Really lovely. It's a very kind of centered, focused image. But I just love what's happening here on the board, on the, I guess the boardwalk here, or the wooden deck, whatever. But look at all these great patterns in here. Over
it's a
here.
long walkway in Colorado. It goes over, I think, 5 lanes of highway. And I had to wait for everybody to stop walking. And I think I'm kneeling down on the ground. So that's the perspective.
Okay. Very cool. So and it's really wonderful perspective. Now it looks like you might've put a vignette on it. And
I did. That was edited. Yeah.
Right. So now this is actually, and I love vignettes because I think it's a wonderful way of getting people to focus where you want them to focus on. And so they can be very, very helpful. But I think for this one, you almost probably don't need it. Because I think the whole image is just really the way it is just lovely. So I don't think you really need a vignette for something like this, because it's just all about the design. And the other thing too, now, and I'm not 100% sure, because I'm never 100% sure, because I'm not there. You were there. Is I was thinking, are these more white or are they actually blue?
It was actually blue. It was a blue sky day. It was a light blue.
Oh, it is a light blue. Okay.
Yeah, it was a light blue. So yeah. And it was just kind of flat in the colors when it came out of the camera.
No, and that's right, because that's the way raw is. So absolutely, you got to bring the magic back in, and that's for sure. Because again, what happens again, too, guys, is anything that's white, in any kind of neutral or even black will pick up the blue. And so, sorry, guys, this is pretty zoomed in. So I was thinking, I wasn't sure if they maybe actually were more white, because this railing kind of looks like it was black, but you could see a lot of blue got picked up in there as well. So I wasn't 100% sure, but that's still hair, like nay or say, you might say. But the one thing I'm going to say is, I know you're really going centered on this, but one way always to look is look at your grid, and whether you use Lightroom or Photoshop. And you can see this is kind of a basic, basically three kind of triple grid system. And you can see we're not quite centered.
That's my life.
No, trust me, can I tell you, I'm a little crooked. I shoot a little tilted all the time now. So so I think most of us do. So don't worry about that by any means. So I would actually crop, just you can see when you move in, by doing that, there you go. Right. So it's just a simple crop that will make it happen. And for those of you in Lightroom too, if you just hit the O key when you're in the crop, if you're not familiar with it, let me just get back out of this. Hold on. Let me reset it. And I'm going to open it one more time. If you hit the O key, you can see it gives you the different kinds of patterns and compositional elements when you're doing with your crops. So it can be very helpful when you're kind of playing around with thirds and all that kind of thing. So when I did the first, I did a little bit of a crop, and I did take some of the blue out. But knowing that some of the blue is still, it kind of gets that light blue. So I'm not sure if I'm close to where it actually is, but just to kind of pull some of that blue out. But again, you're the creator. You can do whatever you want. Add color if you want, go crazy. That's the beauty and creativity, of course, that you're playing with. But I wanted to get a stepping stone, because of course, where I'm aiming is black and white.
I did one in black and white too.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, because to me, that's again, the same thing. The beauty of the black and white really pulls you into the patterns and pulls you into all this great, again, loving what's happening over here and all the patterns happening everywhere. Even in the background, I played with the color, making sure that, get some pattern, some of that texture on the leaves back there, playing with the greens and the yellows. But I just really just kind of get so drawn into it even more now, with all that kind of just dynamic, with all the gray tones and everything. So, but again, that's the fun part about it, works well in color, works great in black and white too. So that's the beauty, but really happy that you waited.
Oh no, I've made all my friends go, just go.
Just go away from me. I'll be with you. Yes, absolutely. So sometimes you got to wait, because you see the potential, and that's what you're waiting for. So fantastic. Yeah. So, Linda, do we have a few minutes? I could just show the edits, and people can, like I said, I can send them to them, but I can just show them really quickly what the edits are.
You've already done the work. So why don't you run through?
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
So for our artists who did the buffalo, beautiful image, just really quickly, guys. Snow, fantastic. Maybe Yellowstone, wonderful place to be. I just kind of wanted to make it that kind of more snowy feeling, and because I love with the bison and everything, and I actually just kind of dehazed the background more so. So the idea is to kind of give it more of that snowy feeling. Bringing that dehaze down does a wonderful job of kind of doing that, and just kind of really then making the bison stand out, buffalo stand out even more. And again, happy to send the image to you. You can look more at the edits, but beautiful image. Just love that motion, that diagonal coming in, nice space in the foreground as well. Very good, nice, clean background, but kind of lightening up that background a little bit more really gives us more focus onto the animals. But I would not want to be out there with you. I'm sorry. This is worth it, but I'm not sure I want to be out there in this weather. So, but beautifully done. Our next one is our guitarist, right? So again, photographing people is always wonderful. So just a couple things just to be aware of, again, I love it. They're kind of just in their moment. They're doing their thing. You've got this one gentleman, you love his hat, the tattoos. You could tell then they're in a guitar store because we got the tags on. There's another gentleman, might be a friend or could just be another customer, just in the back doing his thing too. They're just wanting to play the music and to see what these instruments sound like. like, and they're just in their moment. And that's a wonderful time to capture people when they're just doing their thing. So, and again, black and white's great because if there's a lot of color happening, it can be very distracting. So black and white's a wonderful option as well. So I kind of just did a little bit more. And you always want to watch where you're cropping with people. So I know this is a tough one because one's further in the background and one's further in the foreground. But we always want to kind of, with people, we're always watching, where do we crop? You know, not on the elbows, not on the wrists, not on the knees, not on the ankles, basically not on the joints. So I kind of brought it up a little bit more. Oops, sorry. So we're just right above his ankle there and so forth. But I really was featuring him since he's the focus, really just lightened him up a little bit more just so he would pop out and you can really enjoy and appreciate the beauty of this tattoo as well. And just darken some things in the middle. You know, this was kind of bright here. And, you know, a little bit pop out of him, but just not as much because he's in the background because we're kind of focusing on him. So we're just kind of layering things, but a nice moment caught for sure. You know, if you're able to get that little bit of extra, maybe with his hand playing, that would have been great. But you never know what, you know, I wasn't there. You're probably maybe trying to make sure there was something really distracting back there. We have to make choices. Understandable for sure. So, but nice capture. And our next, another really fun graphic image, right? Beautiful, all this wonderful patterns happening. Looks like we're looking up, of course. Always like look in different directions, guys, right? Not just straight ahead. Look up, look down, look left, look right, walk around if you can. You just never know what the best angle can be. So this is really kind of nice, just kind of this wonderful layering as well. This beautiful grid in the foreground and then everything, all the buildings in the background. Now we have lost some of the detail in the clouds. So again, try to expose for your highlights, guys. You want to get some detail in there if you can get it in there. So it's not just white, it has a little bit of texture. And then just expose for the shadows. And then you can pull up those shadows when you're doing your post-processing. I was really just captured by this. I mean, this is really, I love all the diagonals happening, really very dynamic. I kind of wanted to get right in the heart of it. So this was just a suggestive crop just to get right into it and kind of make it a little bit symmetrical in that sense. Not quite, but close enough. But a really kind of nice graphic to play with. And I kind of toned the clouds down a little bit, playing a little bit with the blues and just kind of punching it up a bit. But again, really nice observation, a really nice way of looking. Love architecture, great subject. All right, this was the other butterfly. So again, another really nice angle. And like I said, always keep photographing, you know, when you've got your subject in hand and if they're hanging around, just keep shooting, right? Just click, 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 click. And you never know what they're going to be doing. But this is really a beautiful, we get the underneath of the wings, which is lovely on this wonderful curvature of this flower. And again, I know the struggle, of course, is the background. So again, it's kind of just look at it and say, what's not needed? What do we really want to get into? And that's kind of what I did. It's just going to get really just more onto that particular one. And the background, I basically separated the flower and the butterfly from the background. A little bit of dehazing, a little bit of clarity, really just kind of bringing up the shadows and the blacks and just kind of making that background almost kind of more neutralized if you really kind of just want to isolate that butterfly. It was just one way of approaching it and seeing if it works. But I still love that flower in the background, a little bit of pink and green in there. I thought that's a nice element to add in there. But really beautiful, nice angle. And another beautiful portrait here. You know, loved, I mean, beautiful skin, this beautiful woman. And, you know, and I love actually you kept this one in color. And I think because sometimes with some of these cultures, the colors are very important to their outfits and what the color of the beads. And this says a lot about probably who she is and about the, you know, the tribe that she's part of and so forth. So I think it's very important that you actually did keep this one in color. It's another side profile. And love this light. It's kind of like a window light. It's beautiful light kind of coming through. It's highlighting everything. Look at that earring that's happening right there. It's amazing because, you know, it's built, it's kind of, you know, I hate to say built into the air almost at this point. But this is kind of one too, because we're kind of getting full frontal of her. And it's very important about that, but she's kind of twisted kind of very sharply with her head. It does put a bit of a neck strain. So I would maybe recommend on something like this, if you're wanting to show more frontal and they're not turned, that you might consider actually having they turn their head just a little bit. So it's more of a so it's kind of a 2/3, 1/3, because we do get the one eye that if we actually see a little bit more of that other side of that face, And it can be like she's still looking off, past your shoulder, not looking directly at you is actually really fine. But just having that little bit more twisted her head towards you, and it just kind of gets more in line with her body. Might just be another way to kind of go with it. But beautiful skin. I mean, look at these, just love the texture that she has going on. And so I just kind of toned down the highlights just in her skin, a little bit on her lips and her teeth, because it was getting a little bit hot there. And just kind of bringing up a little bit of the shadows, like in her hair, in the ear, and on the earring, those little things like that. But it really is a lovely portrait. And I mean, what an amazing opportunity to go and visit these cultures, and having even the opportunity to photograph them is quite a gift. So really nicely done. And that's it. Oh, wait, I got one more. My apologies. We finished with a sunset. Or maybe a sunrise. So again, really nice, very simple, very minimalistic, right? We got the beautiful colors in the sky, very simple silhouette of the wonderful weeds in the foreground. Really nicely done. And sunsets are hard to do, or when we have the ball of sun can be very challenging, right? Especially if there's no clouds, because in many ways it is a ball of light. But what's nice is you do have a little bit of coloring in here, so that is quite nice. So something sometimes to think about too is when you are framing, maybe actually, you could actually have the sun, if you shift it over, maybe having some of these weeds actually, or not these weeds, but the grass is actually in front of the sun, to get a little bit of that kind of like, just to see what that effect might be for you. It kind of breaks up the ball a little bit, but this is really nice because you can see it's opening up some shadows. And that's actually what I did, is I opened up just a tad bit more, because there's you have some gorgeous detail in here. And I think just kind of pulling, because you can really see that kind of sun as it's coming through and it's breaking its, through that little path of grass, is really quite light, really lovely. And I just I kind of did more of a 2/3, 1/3. So you have a little bit more of the sky than the bottom. So a little bit more of that balance. And then I kind of darkened the sky just a little bit. You can see a little bit there and before. I took out the little bit of beam of sun too, but really beautiful. Because I mean, I love what's happening. I mean, these beautiful, beautiful grasses here are beautiful. And I love the little bit of detail you've got going on in here as well. So you never know what you find in your shadows. So, all right, but that's it.
All right. That was a lot of work, Danielle. Thank you so much for doing that. Let me get you to take your screen down.
Okay.
I don't know. I got a lot out of it. I hope that everybody else in this room enjoyed this. There was one question that Shirley asked, and it's about you sharing the edit layers.
Mhm.
She only has the free Photoshop Express. That's what she uses, the basic. Do you think that you're gonna, because are you sending them a screenshot?
Well, no, I was going to send them a DNG, and
Okay.
that should allow her to open that up in, if I understand, remember Photo Express, the way it works, it's kind of like another, like a mini version of Photoshop. But if I correct, it does open up ACR, which is Adobe Camera Raw. I'm not 100% sure. But it would allow you, but I can send it to you as a TIFF, and I can export it out. I think though a DNG should be able to do that.
Yeah.
You should be able to see all the actual adjustments that I made. I like to think that would work for you.
Yeah, and she replied that she can open a DNG. So that sounds
Perfect. Yeah.
Lady, that was a lot of work. We're going to do this. I'm going to make you do this again.
This is again, not a lot of people do this, and I do. It does add more work to my time, but I kind of like to be able to show people what I'm talking about when I make suggestions, if I can do it. But and Jessica's here. Jessica's actually part of one of my critique groups, and she's more than aware. Because again, we have it more as a communication, and she knows that sometimes she'll be like, I don't think so, Danielle. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that, because these are just ideas and suggestions, and I'm just one viewpoint. And that's why we do like our small critique groups. When we do it, when we have these conversations, is we have others chime in as well.
Right.
And they'll say, yeah, I like it. No, I think that maybe suggest this or something like that. I think that's very beneficial, because I do that too with my, I share my images as well, because you're right, we get in love with our images, and we kind of sometimes don't see things that, oops, yeah, you're right, I should maybe do a crop or do something, and that kind of thing. So it's really beneficial to have other people look at your work sometimes. Yeah. Absolutely.
I was going to say, one of the things that I really consistently just noticed in this in your presentation is the crop. And the crops are things that I used to be pretty good at crops, and I think I've lost that skill set. So it was kind of fun to be reminded, oh, a crop makes a huge difference. And it did in many of these photos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that you flip things to black and white, I caught myself thinking, oh, I really need to look and think in black and white every once in a while.
Every once in a while, people say, I mean, because even in the most like, even in like wildlife or flowers can be beautiful in black and white, because in most cases, we already know what they look like because we're familiar with them. So why not try it in black and white, especially if there's a lot of different tonage happening in there, and you'd be surprised how it can just look amazing in a black and white. So I'm with you on that one for sure.
Well, I know this was a lot of work for you, and
My pleasure. It was fun.
yeah, it was fun, but I really appreciate it, and thank
no
you so much
problem.
for doing this.
Absolutely.
All right, let me go ahead and close out this session and just you know what? It is the first. We're in November. I don't know how we got here, but before you guys blink, it'll be December. So I was looking the other day. I think we've got 3, maybe 5 or 6 more sessions before the end of the year. So gosh,
Wow.
it's just flying by. So take your breaks from all the holidays and from the relatives and come over to Happiness Hour. Just come over and jump. All right, next week, Trisha, I call her Trish. Trisha Ziegler will be here to share her presentation, A Choice to Wander. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful, and hope that we see you again soon.